Hello, all. Welcome to Christian Challenge YouTube Live, here for the second time. Today, I'm not streaming yet. I bet I am streaming. I haven't got confirmation that I'm streaming. Um, uh, okay, now there's confirmation that I'm streaming. So we want to welcome everyone that is here watching us. Today we have Mr. Abe Maynor, who, as a number of you know, was in Christian Challenge, a Washburn alum, and was staff for Challenge for 3 years with his bride, Corey, and we'll get to see her, I think, here a little bit later. Uh, Tonight, we're going to start off, before we interview Abe and get his thoughts tonight, and I'm really excited about that. We're going to have a time of worship. Peter, our worship leader, has put together a couple of songs for us. One as we get started here, and one at the end. And so I'm going to go ahead and bring Peter in here. Um,
I will never forget the moment I met you, the moment you called my name, pulled me out of the darkness. You gave me a promise to never thirst again. I will never forget the moment I met you, the moment you called my name. You pulled me out of the darkness. You gave me a promise to never thirst again. All that I ever wanted, my heart has found in you. I have tasted life, nothing satisfies like you do. The fount that won't run dry, nothing satisfies like you do. I want all that you offer, your living water, to drink from the endless well. I will sit at your table, forever grateful, forever where you dwell. All that I ever wanted, my heart has found in you. I have tasted life, nothing satisfies like you do. The fount that won't run dry, nothing satisfies like you do. And all my fountains are in you, and all my hope is built on your love. All my fountains are in you. With every breath I live for you, Lord. All my fountains are in you, and all my hope is built on your love. All my my heart has found in you. I have tasted life, nothing satisfies like you do. The fount that won't run dry, nothing satisfies like you do. Father, I just pray that we would find more ways that you satisfy us, that you would teach us through this conversation, that in all things we would be more and more in love with you. Amen.
Thank you, Peter, so much. Well, here we go. Abe, you ready to roll?
Can you hear me?
Oh, I can now. Look at that.
Perfect.
Okay, so Abe, thanks so much for being here with us. Before we
Yeah.
with the other questions, what is your history with Challenge with Washburn, and where are you at now, and how did you get there?
Yeah. So I grew up around Topeka, and Washburn was where I went to school. Studied human services while I was there. So that's what I got my bachelor's degree in. Attended many fall conferences, and just a Christian Challenge was a place that I found a lot of community, loved deeply, and it was a huge part of my college experience. It's also where I met Corey, my wife, and at some point they might make their way over here to say hi to you guys. But just such a joy to be a part of Challenge. I'll talk a little bit, I think, in our first question about how I landed with Challenge, but then I attended Midwestern Baptist Theological Seminary.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah. Oh, and here's Eleanor. This is our 3-month-old Eleanor, and there's Corey. She's sneaking in. They can't hear you, but they both say hi. So this is what our quarantine looks like, hanging out with a little baby. So yeah. Oh, did you want to say something to them? No. Okay. All right. But yeah, so then went to seminary, but I did it all online. And so Corey and I moved onto staff with Challenge, where we got to be a part of a ton of really great things. We spent some time working with freshmen, and it was a really, really fun season, and a season that the Lord used to prepare us for where we're at now, which is in Norman, Oklahoma. I'm the high school minister at Wildwood Community Church, and we're loving it down here. So we didn't have any connections to Norman or to OU, but Boomer Sooner runs very deep. It's a little intimidating.
Very deep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, so first I want to ask, and so you can get into what you're going to say about Washington. What are the things that you have learned? And for folks listening, the theme of this is what have you learned? And so,
Yeah.
what have you learned? What are the things you have learned that you wish you would have known as a student at Washburn University?
Yeah. So this gets into a little bit of how I got connected with Challenge, because I spent my freshman year not connected, and didn't connect until the beginning of my sophomore year, and so just in thinking about my time at Washburn, my time with Challenge, and man, what I wish that I could have said to freshman Abe, is just to recognize the fullness and the beauty of community within college ministry, to recognize that there's community that is excited to pursue the Lord and excited to build relationships, and I found that quickly as I jumped in on my sophomore year, but just recognizing that there was a time where I was kind of just moving through the motions in freshman year, and could have really maximized that time. And so just recognizing the importance of not just sitting on the sideline, not just waiting, but being willing to jump in, being willing to seek out community. That was such a huge part, and a cool where you see the difference. I saw the difference in my life from freshman year to moving through sophomore year through senior year, just in having community. So, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk about what it means to be a husband and what you've learned from that, and father, and talk about ministry and about what you're learning about pursuing Jesus, not just in times like this, but what you've learned in general as well. But you got married. You got married like, well, yeah, and of course you got married. You got married here a few years. How many years now?
4 years. We just celebrated our 4th anniversary at the beginning of April.
Oh, that's fantastic. 4 years. So you were, now I forget, you were just getting ready to graduate, or when you got married?
I was
graduate?
Going into my final year of seminary. So I had 2 years of seminary, so I got engaged right after I graduated from Washburn.
Okay, that's
and
right.
Then,
that's right. Yeah.
And we were on staff together. And then Corey and I were on staff. And then that next year, so I was finishing up my second year of seminary, and that was a cool time to be able to serve with Corey while we were learning what our relationship looked like, getting to know each other through ministry. It was a cool space to be able to observe her, but also get to serve alongside her, and to see her heart. And that's a big part of I think how we ended up in the space that we're in now, just through the time that we had serving at Christian Challenge.
Yeah. So talk about being a husband. So what has being a husband taught you? What have you learned?
Yeah. I mean, that's such a big question. Like, you learn things day to day, and half the time, or maybe more than half the time, you don't like what you're learning, because it's about yourself, and it's about all of the parts of yourself that are maybe not where they should be. And you hear this a lot, but one of the most incredible things, and I don't know if you can fully understand it until you jump into marriage, is just the level of selfishness that you hold. Even when you're in just a dating relationship with somebody, because you could decide, hey, I think I'm tired, I'm going to go to bed, or I'm going to just go do this thing, and hey, I'll see you later, or I'll see you tomorrow. But recognizing that when you commit yourself to somebody in marriage, that you're not just committing, hey, I'm going to be with this person for the rest of my life, but that I'm going to sacrificially care for this person. And one of the passages that Corey and I reflect on often comes from Ephesians 5, and it could be the intimidating chapter where it's talking about submission and the role of the husband and the wife, but the heart of that passage is when Paul begins to speak about how this is just a reflection, that this is a shadow. Marriage is a shadow of Christ's relationship with the church. And then you start to turn back toward Christ's story and on the cross, and we just celebrate his resurrection just not too many days ago. But you start to look at his sacrifice, his selflessness, and that's what we're supposed to be modeling. And then you get in a moment where you're trying to decide what you want to do for dinner, and you just have this thing in mind. Man, I would really like pizza or whatever. But you find out your spouse is like, the one thing that they don't want is pizza. And it becomes like just a tiny moment that becomes a moment that you get to examine. Am I going to live selflessly? Am I going to love deeply? And so it's been a cool thing, a hard thing, but a wonderful thing in marriage to just see how the Lord uses it to refine us, to make us more.
And how does that relate to, you're talking a bunch of college students. They're thinking about marriage. They would like most of them to get married at some point. So what you have learned here from being married, a husband, how does that apply to where they're at right now? Not in a marriage relationship, but in the relationships they have right now.
Well, and I think that's the most important thing to recognize is even if you're not in a space where you're married, even if you're not in a space where you're in a relationship, you're just looking at relationship, wishing that was you. The Lord has still put people in your life who you can care for deeply, who you can care for sacrificially. And even in that, you can begin to recognize, what does it look like to not just live for myself, but to have eyes for other people, have eyes to see the needs of other people, to care for other people, even if it doesn't benefit me. And that's something we all can do, no matter what our relationship status on social media is. We all have the opportunity to follow that example of Christ, and to live sacrificially for the people around us.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Okay, I want to. How old is she? I got to see her just as the hunkering was beginning. I think the last event that I was at was more than 5 people at. And so, how old is she? How is she doing? And what have you learned about being a father?
Yeah. So she's 3 months old. She's doing great. Babies are awesome, but they're also like intimidating in a lot of ways, because like their way of communicating is just sometimes screaming. You're like, I am trying to figure out what's going on, but man, you are just screaming your little head off, and I hope that you're okay. But no, it's been so much fun. Corey and I have enjoyed it a ton. Little sweet Eleanor, but it's interesting when you look at parenting. There are millions of parenting resources, like endless amount of resources where you could go out and read about how to be the best parent, or what sleep plan should be in place, or how you should handle a child when they have this need or that need, or even a need you didn't even know they needed. And then you jump into parenthood, and only 3 months in, I'm still learning. I'm no pro. But to see that Eleanor is a person. Eleanor is growing and developing and learning constantly. We just recognize new things all the time. And that's amazing. But a lot of those things are happening not because of what Corey and I are doing, but because that's what the Lord has developed, what has made her to be. That this is a piece of, we're seeing a piece of God's image in this little tiny 11-pound baby. Yeah. Yes, she's like the 6th percentile for weight. She's just a tiny little tyke. Her head size, though, was in like the 45th percentile. So we know her brain is good. It's just she might have short arms and legs, but she'll be okay. But no, just that as she continues to develop and grow, we have to rely more and more on the Lord caring for her, the Lord making himself known to her. And that's not something we have control over. We don't know what tomorrow holds. We don't know what the next week holds or the next year holds, but the Lord does. and just learning what it means to trust in him more deeply when we have a little person that we care about so deeply, but we just need the Lord to continue to work on her and work in her life and make himself known to her. And I think of Psalm 119, 105, where it says, your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light to my path. And just that reality that we need God to just direct us. And that's something that goes beyond parenting. That's when you're getting ready to decide, put your name down on what your major is going to be. That's when you're trying to figure out, okay, do I take this class or do I take that? Do I take this professor or that professor? Do I go on this trip, this international trip over the summer, or do I what experience, what part of the Lord's mission am I going to be? There's so many decisions that we make, and we don't always have the answer. We would like to have the answer, but just that reminder that he's our light. He's the one that directs what our next step should be, and we can trust in him even when we don't know what tomorrow, what the next week holds. And as we look at like a crazy season with this pandemic, it becomes an even deeper felt need for so many of us that, man, the what ifs get really, really big. But we have a Lord who knows. We have a Lord who we can trust in. And that's something that I'm reminded by a lot when Eleanor smiles back up at me. That's not something I taught her to do, but that's something that the Lord has just made in the development of babies, that as they grow and learn and experience the world around them, that we can trust that the Lord is good in what he has made.
That's fantastic. So are you, personal question, are you sleeping through the night?
She actually sleeps really well. So we get up. And it's one of those things where we have a number of friends who have babies that are around the same age, and we hear horror stories from them. And then we don't want to tell them that she slept for 6 hours straight and we had to wake her up, but she's awesome.
Right. That's great. Okay. So ministry, you are in youth ministry now.
Yeah.
You were doing it up here as well, but you as a youth pastor now. But what has God taught you throughout all of these years? What have you learned about ministry that could help the students right now that are here at Washburn?
Yeah. So many of the foundational pieces of the ministry that we're a part of for Corey and myself is found in challenge, just found in the space that we were intentional with our time. I talked earlier about how it took me a little bit of time, but once I stepped through that door, it was finding ways to get plugged in and finding ways to serve. And those patterns have been patterns that have continued. And so we serve high school students here in Norman. So 9th through 12th graders, and it's a ton of fun, but they are all in a space where they are just at the beginning of figuring out what life means, what life looks like, what Jesus means, who he is, what am I going to pursue him as a follower myself? Am I just going to allow my family background to just kind of allow me to coast? We have students wrestling with these things all the time, just the beginnings of what students begin to more fully process when they get to step into college, and they have that space of being able to be on their own and get to spread their wings in a way that's new and different in so many ways. But the foundations of ministry for us found in our time with Christian Challenge, and the thing that I think I learn and continue to learn over and over, and it seemed even a few weeks ago when we were having to rebuild ministry from the ground up, because everything that we had planned it involves getting together physically, like being in a place, having some fun together, getting into God's word together, worshiping together. Those things can't happen in the same way. But that God cares deeply for his ministry, that we are not, if we make the decision to jump into God's ministry, we are jumping into something that God cares about deeply, that we're not going to be left with nothing, because God cares about his ministry. He cares about challenge. He cares about church ministry. He cares. And when we are willing to step into ministry, we get to see the gospel work. We get to see the gospel in action. And it is active. It is not something that just sits and waits, but it's something that is always working and processing and pursuing part of ministry. And I think that's something that as I get deeper and deeper into ministry, that sounds weird, deeper and deeper into ministry, but I am reminded of that in newer and fuller ways, that God cares deeply for his people, and he cares deeply for people coming to know him. And that is so often facilitated through his church and through ministries that are gatherings of his people. And as a college student, you have an opportunity to be a part of that in ways that you may never get to be in of your life. We all don't jump into full-time ministry, but as a college student, you so often have the freedom and ability to be a part of God's ministry, not just in the Washburn community, but that's amazing, to be a part of the Washburn community, but to be a part of it nationally, be a part of it internationally. And you don't want to miss that. You don't want to miss that opportunity to jump into God's ministry, because he cares about it. And we see, like, I just am reminded of that because we have students who, they would come on Wednesday nights. We'd see them on Wednesday nights, come be a part of small groups. But then you change everything up, and now all of our small groups are meeting online, and we're just hoping. I'm sitting at home hoping that students are showing up to those groups. I don't have a lot of power in that. But we continue to hear how the Lord is using even community that's happening long distance to continue to change people, to move people, to draw people to himself. And that's a really cool aspect of ministry that I've just been learning about with Corona stuff happening.
Praying and watching him work and trusting him to work.
Yeah.
Back to what you had talked about before. Okay, so last question. What have you learned in your years about pursuing God that you would encourage the students today on?
Yeah. I think this has probably been a theme without saying it through all of this, just in talking about learning, but God's faithfulness. His faithfulness, his steadiness, the fact that he doesn't change, that he's not moved, that he's not shaken by the fact that the economy is what it is, or that our lives are what they are, that none of that is a surprise to him. And he's still faithful a way that we saw this, Corey and I saw this, was graduated from seminary. We're taking a step away from challenge toward what the next chapter was going to be. And just sad because change is hard. And we're making a step toward change without knowing what the next step is. We're stepping without knowing where our foot was going to land. because I didn't have a job yet, and we didn't know where that was going to come, but we trusted in the fact that the Lord had called us toward ministry. And the hard thing was we spent months looking. So it was a 6 to 8 month process of sending out applications all the time, having more interviews than I want to count, making church visits, being like I'd be in the position where it's like, okay, we're in the like top tier of people, and then you get the phone call and they say, hey, we're actually going with somebody else. And it's just hard.
That's tough.
Just not a fun place to be in, and an easy place to be discouraged. An easy place to be like, man, what was that step we took the right step? Was it the best step to take a step out of the ministry that we loved, that we cared about so deeply, to be pursuing life outside of Topeka, outside of the place that we had so many friends and a great community? And then we came across, just online, a job posting for the job at Wildwood. And it was not anything spectacular. There was not a light that blasted me from heaven, or, I think Corey found it and said, hey, you should send your resume and let's see what happens. Even we send it off, and, it's the same thing that I'd done 100 plus times in the process. But we worked through interviews. We came down for a visit, and I remember distinctly we were in a hotel after our first night in Norman. We met with some people, had some time with some of the people on staff, and Corey just looked at me and she said, I think this might be the right spot. And there was we'd spent 12 hours in Norman. There was no reason for her to think that. There was no reason for her to say that. We didn't know people. We didn't have community. But recognizing, as I look back, that the Lord is faithful, that he had called us to ministry and called us to serve, and he was not going to leave us hanging on that. And he's a place that we love, and we've come to have some amazing friends, an amazing community, and love Wildwood deeply and the ministry that we're a part of. But all of that came after a phase of uncertainty. But even in that phase of uncertainty, God was faithful.
I hear such through all of your answers, a theme of faithfulness. Trusting Him has been really a big part of your story.
Yeah. Well, and I think even when you look at what does it mean to be a college student, what does it mean to do the college life successfully, not successfully in grades or successfully in I've got a job at the end, but successfully in your faith. Yeah. Such a big part of that is recognizing that God is faithful. Yeah. Whether you know what you're doing after school or not, He's faithful. And with that truth and with that consistency, we can step into ministry and serve Him diligently and serve Him with thanksgiving. Yeah. Because He's faithful. Yeah.
Well.
And so we have loved our time here in Norman, and just seen the Lord care about us in a way that we don't deserve. Yeah. And it's been awesome.
Abe, thank you. I so appreciate hearing more of your story and where you're at right now and what God is doing.
Yeah.
Even in the midst of the hunkering, and have appreciated your wisdom, your insight, your maturity over the years, and I've learned a lot from you over the years, and I'm grateful for opportunity that you and Corey have there in a new city, in a new state, to be able to invest. And prayer that you will be invested in as well, that you will find folks that will be there for you as you guys are pouring out your lives there in Norman, Oklahoma. Um, and so I want to thank you. And
Yeah.
we're going to, anything else you want to say? I'm going to bring Peter up here in a minute.
Yeah. I mean, for those who are watching, just know that Challenge is a great place. It's a place that we love and we miss so much. But you have an opportunity with your time in Challenge to see more fully who God is and to see more fully what it looks like to care for the people around you and make the most of that. Don't miss that opportunity, but just jump. Even if it's in a digital age, send a text, make a phone call. Um, it's a wonderful space to be in, and we love Challenge so much.
All right. Well, thanks, Abe. Love you guys.
Yeah.
We'll talk with
Hey,
you
thanks.
later on. Here comes Peter.
Hey, everyone. As Abe was talking about God's faithfulness, it just made me think about this one question. The question is, what is it that I'm thirsting for, or what I'm longing for, and how do I need God to reveal Himself to me in this season? Maybe the past season, as we are jolted into this COVID thing. Maybe there's things that we still have not dealt with in our previous season. So this song, I just want you to think about that. What's the thing that you are really longing for God to reveal Himself to you in a way? And the key in this song, is we'll see, is the key is waiting on Him, and don't jump too early into a fake satisfaction or a fake filling, but that we truly are resting in God and looking for Him for all things. Out of the depths I cry to you. In darkest places I will call. Incline your ear to me anew, and hear my cry for mercy, Lord. Were you to count my sinful ways, how could I come before your throne? Yet full forgiveness meets my gaze. I stand redeemed by grace alone. I will wait for you. I will wait for you on your word. I will rely. I will wait for you. Surely wait for you till my soul is satisfied. So put your hope in God alone. Take courage in His power to save, completely and forever won by Christ emerging from the grave. I will wait for you. I will wait for you on your word. I will rely. I will wait for you. Surely wait for you till my soul is satisfied. himself has paid the price, that all who trust in him today find healing in his sacrifice, that all who trust in him today find healing in his sacrifice. I will wait for you, I will wait for you through the storm and through the night. I will wait for you, surely wait for you, for your love is my delight. I will wait for you, I will wait for you through the storm and through the night. I will wait for you, surely wait for you, for your love is my delight. I will wait for you, I will wait for you, on your word I will rely. I will wait for you, surely wait for you, till my soul is satisfied. Father, we just are so thankful for a time that we can just gather and put our thoughts on you, to just remind ourselves that you are our source, you are our fuel, and God, we just thank you that you are a God who's faithful, a God who satisfies, and is all that we need, especially in a season where everything seems to be stripped away. God, you remain, and so we just rest in you and in your faithfulness and in your love. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey, everyone. I hope you had a great time tuning in, and we'll see you again. Bye.